Welcome to my channel. My name is Swish. Controversial decision in Blood Bowl Season 3 is the new policy of limiting how many positionals a team can take based on what's available in the box set. Today we're going to look at the first team impacted by this new policy, the Dark Elves. Let's compare them to the last season's roster. Dark Elves play unsurprisingly for the Elven Kingdoms League, and they have no special team rules. Dark Elf linemen complied with the current journeyman policy of having 0 to 16 players. They were reduced in cost by 5k, had their passing stat increased to 3+, and gained devious skills as a secondary. Runners added the new punt skill to their arsenal and also gained devious as a secondary. Blitzers increased in cost by 5k, gained a 3+ passing, and devious skills as a secondary. Assassins saw some significant changes here. Their cost increased by 5k, but they gained a 4+ passing and added hit and run to their skills. They lost general skills as a primary but gained devious instead. Similarly, they lost passing as a secondary, replacing it with general. Witch Elves saw very little change, only adding devious skills as a secondary option. Lastly, rerolls stayed the same at 50k. Let's take a closer look at each player. While a lot of the positionals increased in cost, Elves across the entire board received a discount on their linemen. Previously, it was difficult to build a full team of Dark Elves due to the high cost of the linemen, but with the discount, things line up much better in this edition. Another key here is that your journeyman will also contribute less to your team value. Now 5k isn't huge, but it's halfway to an extra prayer to Nuffle. For advancements, Elves receive the coveted general and agility access, opening them up for both block and dodge. As elite skills, however, it may be worth taking wrestle instead of block when you're lineman. Runners gained a new skill in punt. Now, I've yet to see the skill in action, so I really don't know how good it's going to be, but it does seem like another way to move the ball forward, which could result in some interesting stretch plays. Prior to Season 2, all the way back in 2016, the actual pass occurred just before the block dice were thrown against the runner, but after the blocker was adjacent to the runner, making the pass more difficult. Now, this was changed in Season 2, where the runner would dump the ball off as soon as the blocker blitz was declared, but before the opponent can move up and throw dice. It's back to the old system now, as declaring an action and performing an action have been separated, so it's a tiny nerf, but it does make more sense. If you want to build around dump off, Nerves of Steel is a solid choice along with accurate and pass, accurate only working on quick and short passes anyway, pass giving you a reroll. Otherwise, turning the runners into low armored blitzers with block and dodge is also an option. Speaking of blitzers, this is where the team saw its biggest nerf in that you can now only take 2 blitzers and they increased in cost. Unlike some of the other teams, the Dark Elf blitzer saw no additional improvement to compensate for the loss of 2 positionals. While I'm not a fan of the box locking that teams received, Dark Elves is the one team where I think it may have actually been warranted. Dark Elves are flooded with positional players, and realistically blitzers were always the best choice, so you frequently ended up just starting with 4 blitzers and ignoring the rest of the positionals on the team. For advancements, I would still give them dodge as their first skill, and really just save up star player points for stat increases beyond level 2. A movement of 8, a strength of 4, a 1+ agility, all of those are solid options, and even if you don't get the stat that you really want, you can always just downgrade it to guard or mighty blow. Okay, now the assassin. The assassin is certainly better in this edition, but I still don't consider it a good player. Hit and run is a very powerful skill that eliminates some of the drawbacks to the stab ability, in that at the end of the stab you have to be standing next to someone you just shanked if you failed, and then you're going to get blocked back. The assassins have low armor, they have a lack of combat skills, and they cost a lot of points, and this frequently just meant that you ended up with a lot of broken assassins. Hit and run being a new skill that actually combos with stab, you can run in, shank to your heart's content, and then step away. My biggest deal breaker with the assassin is the lack of general skill access. That means no option for block or wrestle, and that's going to be kind of pigeonholing you into only being able to stab, and it gives you no defense against retaliation. They are the only Dark Elf with devious access as a primary, however, so you could go in for like Dirty Player and Sneaky Get and make a dedicated Fowler out of them. On a final point, I do want to mention shadowing. It's still not a great skill, but at least in this edition, they did make it a functional skill. In the last edition, it just almost never worked, and when it did work, it didn't really do anything. In this edition, at least it just always works on a 4-up. Finally, with the Witch Elves, nothing significant really changed, and I'm happy to see that, as witches were always my favorite part of the Dark Elf team. Just give them wrestle and then maybe either strip ball or tackle, and you've got the most proficient ball hawk in Blood Bowl. They already have jump up, which combos with the wrestle, and they also have dodge, so you've got the kind of wrestle dodge protection. The big drawback to frenzy is that you're always forced to follow up, meaning that if you don't knock the person down, the frenzy piece is going to get slapped back in retaliation. But having both wrestle and dodge is going to help keep you protected, and of course they're like all elves, so they get agility 2+, so they can dodge away during a blitz. If I were to take Dark Elves into a league, I'd go with 6 linemen, 1 runner, 2 blitzers, 2 witches, 2 rerolls, and no extra dedicated fans for an even total of 1,000,000 gold. Despite the discount on linemen, you still have to make a tough decision on what positionals you want to leave off the roster, and I think assassins are still the worst of the bunch. Honestly, I would also probably not use a runner either. However, with 7 linemen, you were saving exactly the difference in cost between a lineman and a runner, so I felt that it was worth it to upgrade one. I would probably invest in an apothecary very early on in the league though, and try to pick up at least 1 assassin just to kind of get that little extra flavor for the Dark Elves, and then maybe an extra lineman for a total of 13 players. And that's my take on the Dark Elf team for Blood Bowl Season 3. My next review is going to be a hard one, you might even say heartbreaking. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate any likes and comments that you leave me. Until next time, Nuffle's blessings.